Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Another month has shot by, so it's time for another chance for me to, Jackanory style, read MCN to you, at least the highlights of the biking news for here in the UK. So if you're interested in what's been going on in the world of motorcycles here in the UK for the month of August, stick around and stay tuned. Alrighty then, so I've got 5 issues to go through, so this could go on for a bit. So as usual, grab yourself a brew and settle back and let's see what's been going on in the world of bikes. Right, first up then, and this paper seems to have been from a long time ago now, so it's a bit of a surprise to me as to what highlighted. Oh yes, Isle of Wight TT launched. Now you will have seen this because this is all over social media, and absolutely great news as far as I'm concerned. So in case you did miss it, basically what's happened is a group of enterprising souls based on the Isle of Wight have announced that they're going to come up with a TT-like motorbike race, road race, on the Isle of Wight, which if you're outside of the UK is actually a little island off the south of the UK. So it's kind of bit like, you know, it's the Isle of Man-esque type approach, but the Isle of Wight is in the south, so the weather's a bit better. Also, the Isle of Wight has it's quite a big tourist location as it is, so it has quite a lot of things like infrastructure for accommodation, pubs, that sort of thing. Great place to visit. I love going to the Isle of Wight. I fly there quite a lot, and it's not actually that far from me either. It's a bit easier to get to, I think, than the Isle of Man as well. So a great spot to have a motorcycle race. The reason why they've done it is because apparently there is no motorsport of any kind on the island, so this is a great way to make use of some of that tourist infrastructure during the closed season, because they're decided they're going to do this race in October. October 2021 is going to be the first race. That's the plan anyway. It's called the Diamond Races because the Isle of Wight is basically a diamond shape. That's why they're calling it that. The course itself is a 12.8 mile lap, which includes a big straight called the Military Road that goes along the sort of southwestern bit of the island. So some speeds, you know, probably over 200 miles an hour, as I say, around there. And it looks great, so let's just hope this happens. We've heard this sort of thing before, haven't we? Do you remember there was going to be a race in Wales a couple of years back? Can't remember what that was called. Was that called the Wales TT? Can't remember. But that never happened, sadly. So who knows? But they have got some credible names involved in this. So let me just read you some of the highlights from the article here. So the schedule is likely to replicate the Northwest 200 with practice and qualifying on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday will be the rest day with racing on Saturday. So it's not a couple of weeks like the TT, but sort of a long weekend, if you like, Thursday to Sunday, or Thursday to Saturday rather. In addition to local input, the Diamond Races team is made up of motorcycling and road racing experts, included, these are the people that give it some credibility, by the way. Gary Thompson, he's the Isle of Man TT clerk of the course. Neil Tuxworth, he's a former TT racer. Steve Plater, former champion and TT rider. James Hillier, and also there's a management team that includes logistics and digital media specialists. So these are people that know what they're doing and know how to put races on. So fingers crossed this is going to happen. 12.8 mile course, as I say. At this stage we don't know an exact lap time, but we think it will be around 8 minutes, say the team. The Isle of Wight has lots of facilities, more than the Isle of Man in terms of accommodation, is easy to get to. It's also got good weather, as I say. So yeah, so fingers crossed on that one. Let's hope that the Diamond Races actually works. And certainly I'll be putting it in my diary for October 2021. Maybe I'll see you there. That would be great, wouldn't it? Well, I mean, October is quite late in the season. They've done it to coincide, I think, with the BSB rounds and stuff, and some of those other road races, the Macau race, etc. So we'll see how that works. But there's not much else going on in October, so great news. So let's hope that one works. All right, next story. Oh, Christ. Norton Creditors, New Hope. Now, we haven't spoken about Norton for a while, have we? We all remember what happened with Norton. Let me just fiddle with the mic a second. There we go. Hope you can hear me okay. Yes, so Norton, a bit of good news. Norton Creditors New Hope is the headline here. Stuart Gardner's statement of affairs has been published with the estimated figure suggesting there will be enough money to pay back all of Norton's creditors. So that's great news. So the statement estimates that the sales of the various assets to TVS, which is the company that bought Norton, will account for 14.1 million, which combined with other assets but less the amount owed to Metro Bank, follow me here, means they estimate 17.8 million will be available for preferential creditors. With those creditors, so basically that means 17.8 million is estimated to be available to pay unsecured creditors, i.e. those who paid deposits on motorcycles, plus others including HMRC. So a question remains how long it will take, but apparently everybody that's owed money by Norton will get it now. So that's great news, isn't it? So let's hope that the new owners of the company actually make a go of it, and let's hope that this horrible bad period, there's been lots of bad periods in Norton's history, let's hope the whole Stuart Gardner thing is put behind us and we can actually see some decent motorbikes coming out, and another, you know, bike company going from strength to strength. Fingers crossed on that one as well. A lot of fingers crossing today. Right, next up, Baby Blade rumours swirl. So here we are. This is a new, potentially new, small Honda Fireblade or something in that sort of capacity. So whispers from Japan suggest that Honda are about to unveil a final edition of the CBR600RR. It's been absent from the UK lineup since 2016. They don't sell that here. But now, though, rumours suggest that Japan will unveil a new model. We're told the exhaust will stay under the seat, as that's a hallmark of the bike. It'll get a bigger electronics update and kit borrowed from the Fireblade. So it looks like a mini Fireblade. Also coming from the new blade is the all-new look, as I just mentioned, and it also says here the suggestion is that Honda will unveil the bike on August the 9th. Well, I'm recording this well after that and nothing's happened. So in fact, I think there's another mention in one of the later papers about that. So we'll come back to this in a minute, but it looks nice, doesn't it? I mean, it looks just like a Fireblade. I don't know if this is a mock-up. I assume it is. But I love smaller sports bikes. It's one of those sectors that has been neglected of late because, well, not of late, the last 5 years probably, because frankly nobody was buying bikes in that sector. I can't remember what the figures are, but if you look for like the Yamaha R3, which is probably the only surviving bike in that sector, they only sold something like 20 for the whole year, some really small number. I might be wrong on the numbers, but it's a very small amount. So yeah, so for example, in the past I've spoken to the Triumph marketing people, why aren't you going to bring out another Daytona? And they're always saying we'd bring one out if we thought it would sell, and the numbers just don't reflect, and the market research doesn't reflect that it would. So I wouldn't be surprised if this bike doesn't come to the UK, but I'd love to see some of those bikes. Would I buy one? Probably not, and therein lies the rub, I guess. Right, next. So I'm whipping through these, there's quite a lot to get through this time. 3 Degrees, this is the 250-mile MCN road test that they do, and they're pitching the Yamaha Tracer 700 against the BMW F900 against the Kawasaki Versys 1000 SE. Very odd trio this to put against each other. These are all sort of modern upright sport touring type bikes, if you like. I think I've ridden them all, but there is a big price variance between these. So if you look at the Yamaha Tracer, that's 7,947, and then you look at the Kawasaki Versys 1000, that's 14,847. So basically, you know, twice the price. So you know, it's an interesting comparison. Not quite sure why they're making that. Well, it says here in the subheading, what effect does capacity, price, and tech really have on your riding enjoyment? So that is a good question. I would argue actually that tech doesn't make a lot of difference to your riding enjoyment. It's possibly a nice to have if you like that sort of thing, but it's the basic things about a bike that gives you the grin factor, I find. You know, how the engine responds and sounds, how the bike feels. Does it feel light? Does it handle well? Is it comfortable? All that stuff are the important things. The sorts of things that I try and cover in my bike reviews, not necessarily whether it's got the latest 17-axis IMU and whether you can, you know, it's got anti-wheelie control and all that stuff. But opinions vary, that's just my opinion. Let's see what the verdict was on this anyway between these three. So they've said, no surprise that the bike that sits in the middle offers the best of both camps, offering much of the lightweight feel of the Tracer, so this is the XR they're talking about, and almost matching the Versys in terms of tech. And yeah, the new BMW the F900XR is laden with technology. It's a lovely bike. I really enjoyed riding it, actually. It looks good as well. What really makes the XR stand out is the fact that its spec can be altered to suit your wallet. So you can you can specify or downgrade options according to how much money you got to spend, which is a good thing. The BMW feels a thoroughly grown-up option that ticks all the boxes without becoming overladen as a result, is their conclusion. So they're saying the BMW is the winner of that test, and basically you can spec it up if you want to. I think the Versys 1000 now is starting to look a little bit dated, actually. It's probably my least favourite of that bunch. And if I was going to, money no object out of that group, I'd probably go for the BMW as well. The little XR was a really nice bike. I say little, it's 900cc. It's not much less, is it, than the 1000 XR. What do you make of that bike? You know, have you had a chance to have a ride in it? I think it's really nice. Loads of reviews on that, by the way. If I remember, I'll stick a card in the corner because I had one of those for a couple of weeks. Did I? And I think I did. And I'll put a link to the reviews anyway in there. All right, next up. Oh yeah, just a couple in the classifiers at the end. I always look through MCN classifiers. I've no intention of buying a new bike at the moment. I've got more than enough to be getting on with, but I do like to keep a little eye out to see if there's anything interesting. So a couple of things struck me in this issue. First off is this CCM here, Spitfire flat tracker, £9,994 it's going for. It's a 2019 model with 240 miles. So what does that tell you? So first off, I think, if I remember rightly, when these came out, they were 9,999. So this is £5 less than it was new, so basically the same price. It's only done 240 miles in a year, so very low mileage. Does that make you think the person who bought it just didn't really like it after all? That's what it says to me. So interesting that. And would you buy a second-hand bike for the same price as it is new? Now, I know these CCMs are a bit special because they only make a limited number, so maybe the prices go up over time anyway. But, I don't know, there's just something wrong to me about spending the same money on a second-hand bike, even though it's only got 250 miles. You know, I'd expect a bit more of a discount. But anyway, just interesting, that one that caught my eye. Then the other one, the bike that caught my eye here, sort of other end of the scale in terms of value, CBR1100XX Super Blackbird. This is the Honda. Now in its day, this is a 1997 example with 39,000 miles, and they want 2,300 miles for £2,300 for it. So less than £2.5 grand for a 1997 bike. Okay, it's relatively old, 13 years, but when this came out, this was the fastest bike you could buy. This is still a quick motorcycle. And for £2,300, it strikes me as an absolute bargain. So I suspect this is long since sold since. But if I had space in my garage and £2.5 grand burning a hole in my pocket, I'd be very tempted to go for that. That would be a fun bike to ride in today. And a great one just to have as a collection item to say that you've got the bike that was the fastest in 1997. So yeah, so there are two that stuck out at me when I had a quick look through the classifiers in that MCN. Right, quick slurp, then time for the next paper. By the way, TMF mug available on our website, www.themissentonflyer.com, as is the sweatshirt, and lots of other things besides, stuff being added all the time. Okay, moving on then to the next paper. Feels a bit thin, this one, but I've got 5 stories that I've highlighted here. First up, time for Ewan and Charley. So this is the much vaunted, much talked about new series that Ewan and Charley have done, travelling from Argentina up to Los Angeles. Long Way Up, I think they're calling it. Yeah, new Long Way Up series. It's the reason why I've highlighted this is because it's going to air on Apple TV in September. So next month on Apple TV. I just wondered, are you going to be watching it then? How many people do you know that have Apple TV? Now, I haven't asked all my acquaintances, do you have Apple TV? But I don't have it, and I don't think I know anyone who does. Is this going to make you go and buy Apple TV so you can watch this? Don't know. It's not going to make me do that. I imagine it'll air somewhere else in the fullness of time, so we'll just have to wait, or I'll just have to wait. Maybe you're going to watch it. But yeah, interested in your thoughts on that. They've gone this time on the Harley-Davidson electric bike, so I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch. A couple of things I've highlighted here. Let me just read these out. So the latest epic adventure sees the celebrity duo ride electric Harley-Davidson live-wire motorcycles. Also joining them are long-time collaborators, directors David Alexanian and Russ Mulkin, following in their electric Rivian vehicles. So they've got a support crew again, but electric, so that's interesting. Apple TV is a subscription TV service, costs $4.99 a month if you want to watch this. The first 3 episodes of the series will air on September the 18th, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I won't be seeing it on September the 18th on Apple TV though, will you be? And also I'll be interested to know how much influence have those two had on you and your riding. A lot of people say that they got into riding because of these two. I don't think I got into riding because of these two, but they certainly made me more aware of the BMW GS, so there's no doubt that they almost sparked off that whole adventure bike market, didn't they? I know the bikes were around before then, there are others besides, but if it wasn't for that original series they did, I don't think that we'd be seeing quite so many of those bikes on the road now. Certainly the GS has done a blinder, hasn't it, since then. Still selling like hotcakes. I love them. Anyway, right, next up. New speed limits to ease the jams. Now, this is another good news story. I like that we're getting some good news stories. Highways England have announced that the speed limit for motorway roadworks will be raised from 50 to 60 miles per hour where it's safe to do so. Excellent. The result, they've done some trials apparently to find out to see if this is going to make much difference, and the result of the trials was a reduction in journey times between 8 and 14%. I guess no big surprise there. People felt safer too. One of the concerns raised in 50 mile per hour zones for roadworks is dicing with lorries. However, by raising the limit to 60, which is above the HGV top speed limit of 56, drivers felt more at ease. Quite interesting that, isn't it? And very welcome news. I mean, there are some stretches of long bits of motorway that are currently at 50 miles an hour. There's a long bit I often use on the M4, for example. It seems like it's been like that for years, and it's got years to go. And whenever you go down it, it is just tedious sitting at 50 miles an hour. So raising it to 60 would be a great thing. Now, this paper is the one from a couple of weeks ago. This is August the 5th, so getting on for a month ago now. I don't think I've seen anywhere where this has been raised yet. It doesn't say when it's going to happen, but let's hope it happens soon. Certainly by the next time I'm on the M4, that would be nice. All right, next up, a letter that I've highlighted here from Talking Point, the letters page in MCN. Easy Tiger is its title. I'll read it out to you. It's from a guy called Morris Tweed, great name. Triumph have dropped the base model Tiger 900 from the range in the UK without a wheel being turned. According to Triumph, demand for the cheapest, no-frills model is not worth them importing to the home country. Have they not seen the sales success of the Royal Enfield twins? Funny old world, says Morris. I completely agree with him. So Triumph, apparently, if this is correct, and I've no reason to disbelieve Morris, they're not going to sell the basic the Tiger 900. Do you remember when they announced the Tiger 900? Getting on for a year ago now, they came out with, they're basically 3 models, the off-road model, the on-road model and the basic model. Well, they're not going to sell the basic model. It's a real shame. Now, I had a Tiger 900, the GT Pro, which is the road model, the Rally Pro being the off-road model. I borrowed one of these for a couple of weeks, a few months back, and I absolutely loved it. It is a beautiful, beautiful bike. But at the summary, at the end of my time with the bike, I said that although I loved the bike, I didn't find the electronics that useful. I don't like the TFT on it and so on. And if I were to buy one, and I'm quite tempted to buy one, I must say, because it is a lovely bike. The engine in particular is a peach, I think. I would have gone for the basic one, because you could get that for 9,000 quid. I think that was what the price was. For £9,000, that basic bike was a great bike. It had everything you wanted for a proper grin factor. Back to what we talked about before, you know, it handles nice, it feels nice and light, sounds good, goes well, it's comfortable, etc. You'd have got all that for your 9 grand. Well, not anymore, because apparently you have to get the GT or the Rally now, which is a real shame. What are they thinking of? Yeah, that's very disappointing to hear that. I was hoping we'd see a bit of a move with things like the success of the Royal Enfield Interceptor, which is a cheaper bike, that we're starting to see manufacturers moving back down to the cheaper end. Because again, as I've said many times before, including on this review, I'm not a massive fan of all the electronics and stuff that now comes pretty much as standard with bikes. I can do without it. My Street Triple, I'm on a bit of a rant here now. My Street Triple, which is a 2012, doesn't even have ABS, and I find that bike absolutely perfect. The most important thing about it is it's comfortable and it's lightweight and it's fun. That's what they should be focusing on, not necessarily the electronics fit and get the cost down. I think things like PCP and stuff are making bikes seem as if they're more affordable. In fact, for people like me that like to buy bikes as opposed to rent them, that's not the case. Anyway, moving on, bit of a rant there. Okay, the speed of progress, another of the MCN tests that I like to look at. This is the BMW, this time S1000XR TE, pitched against the KTM Super Duke GT. I've just finished riding the S1000XR. There are videos going up on my channel at the moment. You may have seen a few of them. Got a few more to come, including a video that's been asked for a lot, by the way, where I do a direct comparison between the XR and the GS, and that's the 1250 GS as well as the 1200. I talk about the changes between the two. And also, that features Mrs. Flyer. She's had a go on the back of the XR, and she gives her opinion of what the bike's like as a pillion passenger as well. So if you're interested in an S1000XR and you're thinking you're going to want to take your missus or girlfriend or whoever on the back, then you might want to stick around and watch that video coming up. Anyway, pitching it against the Super Duke GT. I've not ridden the very latest one, but I did ride it when it came out a couple of years ago. It's a great bike to ride. Do enjoy the riding on it. It's you know, it's got the DNA in it of the Super Duke R, which is a fantastic bike, but I just can't get on with the looks of it. It looks a bit like a rhinoceros to me. Something about it that make it look heavy, even though it's lovely to ride. So out of these two bikes, let's see which one they preferred, they being MCN. And just a word on the price. The BMW S1000XR TE, which is the one you want to buy, is $14,285. The Super Duke GT, $17,199. So quite a bit more expensive than the BMW, I have to say. And the verdict that MCN have come up with, they've given the XR 4 out of 5 and the Super Duke GT 4 out of 5 stars. When you're only giving things 5 stars, there's not much to choose from, so you know, often they come out as a tie. But if you read the blurb, a couple of bits I've highlighted. The BMW is the one to go for if you're wanting a more well-rounded, practical package with hair-raising oomph. I'd ditto that. It's a very oomphy bike. If sporty riding is a priority, you cannot beat the KTM. Many buyers want more than just savage power, and despite the KTM offering greater seat comfort, a breakdown and less refined suspension mean that the XR must take the overall crown here. So it sounds like when the guys from MCN were riding it, the KTM proved unreliable, which is a bit of a shame, because I'm sure that's not the case for all of them, although you do hear this, you know, again and again. They have a bit of a reputation, don't they? Don't know if it's justified or not. I've never had any problem with the KTM, but then I've never owned one. I've just borrowed them. So there we go. So basically it's saying if you're a speed hooligan, get the Super Duke GT. If not, get the Beamer. And I do agree with the unusually here in the comment about the comfort, the KTM being more comfortable than BMW. I didn't think I'd ever say that, but the XR has an unusually hard seat. I just don't know what they're thinking about there. It's sculpted and cupped. If it happens to fit your buttocks, I'm sure it's great, but I didn't find it good on long journeys, I have to say. But I'll say more about that coming in my reviews coming on the channel in the next few days. Okay, last story in this paper. Ah, yes, here we are. 4K all-rounders. Reason why I pointed this out is because it's lovely to see the old Triumph Tiger 1050, a bike that has a special place in my heart, because I used to own one of these. I think it was a 2008 one that I had, before it was called a Tiger Sport. So this effectively is the old speed triple engine in a more upright package. And it's one of those bikes that you either like or not, I think. I love the look of this when I bought mine, clearly, which is why I bought it. And I do, to this day, I sort of miss it. I love that triple engine, the big grunty engine it had. I love the comfort of this bike. It's a really comfortable bike. What I didn't love were two things. It was pretty weighty up top, so it was quite difficult to move around the garage, and that's one of my sort of pet hates. And also the gearbox was a bit clunky on mine. I've had difficulty getting it in and out of first and second gear. I don't know if there was an issue with my particular gearbox or what, but put me off the bike slightly. But I've ridden the newer bike since, the Tiger Sport. Lovely, lovely machine. I don't know why more people don't rave about them. And you can buy a second-hand one here for $4,195 is one they found here. They said Triumph's 3-cylinder Tiger 1050 is an oddball. A bike that doesn't fit neatly into our beloved categories. That's why it's so overlooked, and also why it's so good. And I would completely ditto that. It's a great bike if you're in the market for, you know, a sort of a sport touring bike, sort of an adventure bike, not easy to categorise, but a bike that'll do big miles, looks great, goes well, and you don't want to buy a brand new. Do think about the Big Tiger. It's a great bike. Love it. So much better, I think, than the current Tiger 1200 adventure bike, actually, but that's another story. All right, that's it for that paper. How are we doing? Crikey, time is marching on. Right, next up, coming a bit more up to date. First story in this paper. Wanted your used motorbike. Actually, that's not the story I was going to talk about, but I will mention it in passing. Apparently, there's a massive shortage of used motorbikes in dealers at the moment, and I know this because I've been talking to dealers about whether I could ride a few older bikes, and they're saying they've got no stocks. That's quite interesting. But the actual story I wanted to raise on this page was this one here: bikes on the rise. Motorcycle and scooter sales are on the rise. July apparently showed a year-on-year increase of 42%. So that means more than 14,000 new two-wheeled bikes have hit the roads in July. That's amazing. So most of those sales actually are for scooters, and they think, when you read the various articles about this, there's another one coming in a minute, I think, that it's to do with COVID-19 and the fact that people don't want to take public transport, and have woken up to the idea that if you live in town, a scooter actually is a great way to get to work and a great way to nip through traffic. We knew this anyway, but that's only got to be good news. You know, you may not be fascinated by scooters, but getting more people on two wheels, you know, they may graduate to, in quotes, proper motorbikes. So that's great news, and good news for dealers as well, that of course during that whole lockdown and shutdown period, obviously their businesses have suffered, but they've had a bump a few months since they've started to reopen. So that is great news. Quite a lot of good news in this month's bike news, isn't there? Right, back to that Honda we mentioned at the start. 2021 CBR600RR is revealed, and we want one, is what it says here. Highlighted a few bits. After disappearing from UK showrooms in 2017, Honda's CBR600RR could be about to make a welcome return following a short news release on Thursday, August the 6th. So they did talk about it. It features a water-cooled 4-stroke double overhead cam, inline 4-cylinder, 599cc engine, and the latest electronic control technology. It has a redline figure of 15,000 RPM, so an absolute screamer. Shares styling traits with the 2020 Fireblade. We knew that from the picture we saw last time. It says there'll be manually adjustable suspension and no keyless ignition. Well, that's good news as far as I'm concerned. I've got a bit of a pet hate for that keyless ignition. Reason why, often people say, why do you hate keyless ignition so much? Number one, I think it's a problem that they've tried to solve that was never a problem. I've never found it an issue, having a key. And then the other thing is, it puts your insurance up. Turns out keyless ignition bikes and cars are easier to steal than ones that have an old-fashioned lock, so your premium goes up. So not many people mention that, but that's what the insurance companies tell me. Anyway, the bike retains its under-seat exhaust, which is a sort of signature look of the bike. Whether this new model will arrive in dealers here in the UK remains to be seen, but the engine does sound like an early noughties F1 car, apparently. So actually that sounds great, doesn't it? I do like the sound of that, but I don't know, my gut feel is we probably won't see it because of what we've talked about before, the fact that they don't sell many bikes of that sort of type and size here. It'd be lovely if I'm wrong. I'd love to have a go with one. Right, BMW set to raise the roof. Check this out. Interested to hear your views on this one. Reborn C1 gets airbags, safety cell active aeros, but can be ridden as a normal bike too. So years ago, back in, does it say here? It doesn't say when, but the C1 scooter used to be made by BMW, and it was supposed to be an alternative to a car. In this country, basically, it flopped. We're not big on doing scooters in this country, mainly because of our weather, but then with the roof, you'd think it might work. Anyway, the firm have filed at least 15 new patent applications, apparently, around this new bike. The aim is to provide car-like levels of safety on two wheels, even comes with a seatbelt and airbags, I think. New design offers customers the option of removing the entire safety cell, so you can ride it as a normal bike if you want. So a carbon fibre roof structure, airbag, seatbelts, active aerodynamics, Amazing, with movable winglets. And it seems like the price is going to be north of £20,000. Now that's the bit that I want to mention. So it looks unusual. I'd love a go in one. Looks quite hilarious. But really, is this going to tempt people out of their car? And £20,000, that seems like an awful lot of money for something that really is a glorified scooter. So I think it might be a thumbs down to BMW on this one. What's your making on that? Is this going to sell? Would you buy one? Not sure I would. Good that it's got all the, you know, the safety features built in, seat belts and stuff. I'm sure it is safer to ride. And if that's one of the main criticisms that people don't go on two wheels is safety, then maybe this will address it. But I don't know. I just can't see it selling. But again, it's only patents filed. They haven't released the bike yet, so we'll watch that one, see what happens. Okay, next up, another 250 road test, and this one's particularly relevant to me because I'm an owner of the Royal Enfield Interceptor. They've pitched it against the Kawasaki W800. Big price difference again. The Royal Enfield Interceptor, 5,699. The Kawasaki, 8,645. So £2 more, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're talking about a bike in the case of the Royal Enfield that costs 5,500, that's a big chunk of the cost, isn't it? So significantly more for the Kawasaki. You'd expect it to be much, much better. Let's have a look at the verdict. There's a few things I've highlighted here. Let me read these to you. The Interceptor has wider reaching abilities than the Kawasaki. That's interesting. On rippled and rutless sections, the 650 offers a bit more control than the 800. Wow. I mean, I'm intrigued by that because I've always found that the one limitation of the Interceptor is that if you get going a bit, the suspension can be a bit, can get out of shape. But they're saying it's actually better than the W800 on dodgy roads. On the lean, the more control than the 800. Okay, so it's more inspiring on leaning into corners as well. The chassis retains accuracy and feels secure beyond the level where the Japanese rival gets a touch vague. I'm amazed by that. This isn't sounding good with the Kawasaki. The engine is more willing accomplice to dashing between turns. Enfield's twin has a modern over square dimension, delivers peak power at 1250 RPM higher up the revs, and is free revving and flexible. It's much happier blasting down dual carriage at 80. And on open straights, the Interceptor's riding position offers just a smidge more support as well. So glowing report of the Interceptor here. Sure, the W800 is classier, but there's no escaping the fact that the Enfield has a wider operating range, more engaging dynamic, very many happy owners on one, and costs £3,000 less. Oh, 3,000, my maths was wrong. Blimey, that's incredible. I do like the look of the Kawasaki. Down here in the verdict bit, they've said, for laid-back Sunday morning thrums, sun-drenched evening pootles to the local meet and touchy-feely garage encounters by the Kawasaki. If you want a practical, affordable jump on the road and ride bike, and plenty of old school appeal, go for the Enfield. Well, there we are. Well, I went for the Enfield in this very colour scheme, the Baker Express, although that may be changing soon. Stick around and stay tuned for more on that. But yeah, they've given both bikes 4 stars out of 5, difficult to differentiate, as I say, with a 5-star thing, but seems like the Royal Enfield has sort of wiped the floor with the W800 as far as MCN are concerned, so that's good. Justifies my choice. All right, final story in this paper. Tried and test. Oh, of course, the Guardsman. The MCN have done. I actually did a little thing on Instagram about this earlier in the month. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do so. I'm just called Missenden Flyer, not the Missenden Flyer. There's an old account that I think I set up and couldn't get to operate. So don't follow me there. But I post on Instagram more than I do on Facebook and Twitter. That's the place to get news on what's coming up on the channel and stuff. And when I'm out and about. If you don't want to sign up to Patreon, which is another way to get more behind the scenes stuff and more stuff besides. But yeah, so do follow me on Instagram. Anyway, the Guardsman, this is the garage. The reason I mention this is because this is the garage door security barrier that I've got on my garage. You often see it at the start of my videos and people are always asking me, what is that bar you lift up at the start of your videos? Well, this is it, it's the Guardsman. I mentioned it because I think it's a great product. MCN have reviewed it. They said this new Sole Secure rated invention from Image 4 Security, who now sponsor my channel, by the way, so hello to you guys, is seriously worth considering. It says any decent DIY can fit it, or you can get them to fit it. I got them to fit mine, and it'll cost you £649 with the anchor or £599 without the ground anchor. And the other reason why I mention it, if you look below this video, if you're interested in one of these, I can get you a £50 discount because, as I say, they are a sponsor of my channel. Check out the link below, follow that. I think it's TMF50, but the details are below and you'll get £50 off if you're interested in a Guardsman. I think it's a great bit of kit, particularly if you've got multiple bikes like me. Yeah, I recommend it to the house, and MCN seem to be doing the same. They've given it 5 for quality and 5 for value, so they're top marks. So big thumbs up to those guys and thanks for coming on board to sponsor me. All right, that's that. 2 more to go. Still with me? Hope so. Right, getting a bit more up to date now. COVID commuters fuel sales. So this is a follow-up to that previous article that are basically saying scooters are continuing to sell. I'm not sure there's anything new in here. It says here, in July, combined UK sales of powered two-wheelers were up by an astonishing 41.9% on the same time last year. We already covered that. Comes after an already skyrocketing sales in June when the lockdown first began to ease. But those sales, particularly for commuters, could have been higher still, MCN has learned. Had there been enough bikes and dealers, apparently scooter sales would have been even higher than the 56% that applies to scooters had supply been able to meet demand. So in fact, demand has outstripped supply. That's incredible. And again, great news. So good to have another good news story. Moving swiftly on. Now this is an interesting one. KTM reveal new Dakar Replica. What do you make to this one, folks? So what this is a 450 Rally Replica. It's a limited edition, customer version of their 9-time Works Dakar winner. It's a 4-stroke single. It's got special bodywork, including pannier tanks with which give it an extra 33 litres, so long range, so that's very handy. It's got a specially tuned version of the 449cc liquid-cooled, fuel-injected 4-stroke single engine, and it looks like that. All sounds great. First thing I would say is, I personally, I'm not keen on this. I've never really followed the Dakar. I respect it as an event, of course, but I've never really followed it that closely. And I don't like the look of the upright front that they have because of the track book or whatever the nav thing's called that goes in there, which of course you don't need on the road anyway. So it begs the question, why do you need something that looks Dakar-esque on the road? But I get that some people are Dakar fans and might like it. So assuming you do like that look, how much is one of these 450cc singles going to cost you? According to this, 23,266, which sounds really expensive, doesn't it? But wait, there's more. Then VAT and delivery on top of that. So VAT here is 20%, so that's another at least 4 grand. So you're looking at 27 grand plus delivery for a 450cc single piston, single cylinder engine. Incredible. And it's not one that even appeals to me. So I definitely won't be buying this. KTM are masters at off-road. I'm sure it's a brilliant bike technically and great off-road. And if you're a Dakar fan, you better be a well-heeled one if you want one of these, because it's going to cost you 28 grand. Unbelievable. Am I being unreasonable? Or do you think that that is just way over the top? Can't see them selling many of those. Next up here, the F900 again, this time versus the Tiger 900. 2 bikes we already talked about in this month's news review. Both bikes that I loved. Both bikes that I'll be more than happy to own. The F900XR TE, 10.5 grand. The Triumph Tiger 900 GT Pro, 12,800. So the GT Pro is exactly the one that I rode. In fact, this may, because mine was a press bike that I had for a month, may well be the exact same bike. I absolutely loved it. Let's see what John Urry, their tester, said about them. If we go to the verdict page. Both, oh actually the BMW F900 got 5 out of 5, the Triumph 4 out of 5, so there is a difference in the star ratings here, and it's not as I would have done it, I would have gone the other way around. What does he say? John says, if you love a B-road blast and favour agility over outright comfort, then pick the XR. If, however, you want to explore the UK or Europe, the Tiger more than lives up to its Gran Turismo initials. And I agree, it's a very comfortable, capable, long-distance bike. It was a bike that I was considering, would that be an alternative to my existing GS? Which is best? Asked John. For us, the BMW pips the Triumph, as aside from a slightly numb bum, it ticked off an MCN 250 with ease and also delivered a more enjoyable ride when the corners came a-calling. The Tiger is an excellent machine for touring, but for small-scale adventuring in the somewhat restricted space of the UK, we'd pick the BMW. Well, all these things are a matter of opinion, aren't they? As I say, my opinion would be the other way around. I'd have the Triumph any day. I just thought it was a more engaging bike. Nothing wrong with the XR. I really like that too. And it's, you know, I'm clutching at straws here. There's a cigarette's paper width of difference to choose between them. You can go either way. I mean, I very much prefer the electronics presentation on the BMW. The TFT on there is great, whereas the TFT on the Triumph I think is horrible. But the XR just felt a little bit meh to me, a little bit plasticky, didn't feel quite so premium, whereas the Triumph felt just a bit better built to me. Certainly sounded nicer, and I thought handled better as well. But, you know, I'm not an expert rider. I think John Urry probably is. What do I know? But for me, it would have been round the other way. So interesting to hear another view. Okay, last story in here. Proper retro. Forget Bonnevilles and V7s. For an authentic old school experience, you need the Benelli Imperiale 400. Benelli, if you remember, Italian brand of old, sold to the Chinese a few years back, still designed in Italy and have a design house in Italy. Sounds a bit like Triumph, doesn't it now? But the bikes are built in China, I believe. So what do they say here? Benelli Imperiale 400. It's got 21 brake horsepower, single cylinder engine, basic chassis, and there's a good bit, 3,699 on the road price. And it looks properly old school, this as well. Lovely in the black and gold. It's got a made in China sticker. Apparently it proudly wears, so let's not get into the Chinese debate. I don't have a problem with bikes built in China if they're built to a good standard. It says here, there are 19 people working on engineering, design and prototyping at the firm's historic Pesaro base in Italy, but all the models are manufactured at Qinyang, I think that's how you pronounce it, at their factory in China. Fair enough. The verdict, haven't highlighted anything here particularly, but it says here, the problem for the Benelli is that Royal Enfield's Bullet is just 500 more. It's proven, has better handling, more traditional chugging single and more characterful and authentic. And Enfields have cast iron residuals too. It feels like the bike the Benelli is trying to be. So not a glowing recommendation. Although I do like the look of it, and I have to say when I first saw it, the bike that I thought of was the Royal Enfield Classic 500, which of course is no longer made, I don't think. They've stopped that. I think we reported that in a few months back. But I think it looks quite good. And you can't argue with the price, can you? But not highly rated by Mike Armitage, who rode that one. All right, then last paper, nearly there. You're still with me. Thank you for sticking with me. It's gone on a bit, this, isn't it? Sorry about that. Right, only two stories here. This is from, well, by the time you see this, this is going up on Monday. I'm recording this on Thursday. This is yesterday's paper. So, did that make sense? First story, three-pronged attack. Had to talk about this, the brand new Triumph Trident that has broken cover. I've posted a little video on this. If you haven't seen it, go and check that out on my channel. Triumph did this rather strange press unveiling where they unveiled a prototype bike as opposed to the actual bike. And the bike is going to be released in early 2021, they say. So not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe it's to do with COVID-19. I don't know, maybe it's to do with it's being manufactured in Thailand and they haven't actually got a bike in the UK to show the press. Who knows? Bit strange, but parking all that, I think it looks lovely. Lots of debate and discussion about what the specs of the bike, because they didn't reveal any of that. And there's no new news in MCN really. They've said here, this bike is going to be aimed at people who have been riding a while, but this is their first new large capacity machine. That's what Triumph say. Although it's based on an existing architecture, it's an all new unit, the engine apparently. I thought it might be using the engine out of the 660cc triple in the A2 friendly street triple, but apparently it's a new engine, so can't be that. Triumph aren't releasing any figures about the new power plant, other than to say it will be A2 compliant. We imagine it will take a leaf out of the A2, this is the bike I was talking about, the Street Triple S book, and expect 660cc and 47 brake horsepower in restricted form. So they're saying it may be a 660. I thought it was going to be the 660, but apparently it's a new engine. Don't be surprised to see riding modes, cornering ABS and lean sensitive traction control. That's all to help it compete with the likes of the Yamaha MT-07, which is squarely aimed at. No official word on pricing, but with the anticipated finish quality, sub 7,500 doesn't seem unreasonable. So the idea is this is going to be like an entry-level Triumph. So some people commented on my previous video on this, doesn't this supersede the Street Triple? Well, no. I think number one, for Triumph, the Street Triple has been such a successful bike, they'd be daft to stop that at this point. It's selling like hotcakes, relatively speaking. I think the Street Triple will be further up the pecking order. This is a bit lower down than that in terms of price and of power. But I do think it looks lovely. The Trident name, of course, iconic for Triumph, so great that they're bringing it back. Not sure about the Tipex paint scheme. Some of you commented that you don't like the colour scheme, which I thought was hilarious, because of course this is a mock-up. But really looking forward to seeing this in the flesh. Very exciting. I mean, even though I don't need a bike of this size, if it's lightweight and fun, and you know, it's around about a 600, I think it'd be a brilliant road bike. I'd be really tempted. Maybe, I mean, I love my Street Triple, but we all like a change from now and again, don't we? Maybe sell me Street Triple, find another couple of grand and get one of these perhaps. I don't know. I do like the look of it, I must say. So we're really looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully sooner rather than later, if they're going to be for sale early 2021. It's not that far away now, is it? I'm shocked to say. It's feeling very much more autumnal now, isn't it? Right, the only other story I want to pick out here was BMW R1200GS Adventure. So this is an article talking about the fact that you can buy an old 1200 GS Adventure now for £9,500, a sort of a second-hand top spec one, which is an awful lot of bike for the money when you consider 3 or 4 years ago when these were the bike before the 1250, these were selling at 18, 19 grand. So much for the good residuals, eh, BMW? That's why I bought mine. They told me the residuals were good. Anyway, I haven't got the Adventure, I've got the standard bike. But nonetheless, the reason why I picked out this article was because something leapt out at me here. Let me read this. Just be aware that the Sachs ESA rear shock lasts between 20 and 30,000 miles before it needs a rebuild. For bikes no longer in warranty, Firefox Racing offer an overhaul service for £250, which is very reasonable when compared to £1,700 for a complete new unit from BMW. Now, I don't want to open a whole can of worms again, but the ESA rear shock failed on mine after 18,000 miles, and BMW could do nothing for me, and said that, in fact, they quoted me £1,800, my local dealer, to replace it, which I thought was outrageous. So in the end, I bought a second-hand shock off of eBay and fitted that. Long story, and there is a video of it fair. I don't want to get into that, so don't comment about that because I won't answer to you because it is a long story. But the fact that MCN are now saying this is a known thing, that the ESA fails between 20 and 30,000 miles, that's not good, is it? That is not good. But what is good news is that this Firefox Racing is saying they'll do an overhaul for 250 quid. That certainly wasn't available when mine went. The second-hand one that I bought cost me, I think it was 450 quid, something like that. So yeah, nightmare. What is going on with those shocks? Just be aware of that if you're going to buy one of these bikes. There is that little issue, and I've suffered from this personally. Not good. I'm glad to say, fingers crossed, since I got it fixed, my bike's been beautiful. I love the GS. I won't have anything bad said against it. At the moment, if I had the money no object, and I was buying another adventure bike, it would probably be another GS. Lovely, lovely bike. Anyway, there we go. That's it for this month's motorcycle news review. Hope that was of some interest to you. Thank you very much for watching right till the end, and thank you as ever for watching and commenting on all my videos. If this is the first time you've been here, do consider hitting that subscribe button, and like I say, if you can, do also follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. I'm trying to build up my followings there so that if anything ever went pop with YouTube, I've still got a way of contacting you. And don't forget to read the description below this video, and in fact all my videos, because I've got various bits of money off on things as well. And I've started doing a thing that I'm calling my fashion segment at the end of some videos, where you see me, where I talk about the kit that I'm wearing, and I'm often putting links to those below as well. Those are generally affiliate links, so it helps out the channel at no extra cost to you if you click on those. So just thought I'd mention that. All right, that's it for this time. Stay safe on the roads. Let's hope we get a bit more summer, so that by the time I do the next MCN news review, September's been an amazing biking month. All right, maybe next month we'll do some more parish notices as well, so I can let you know what's coming up on the channel. Lots of good stuff coming, so do stick around and stay tuned. All right, that's it for now. Speak to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio. Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here. Hope you're well. Another month has shot by, August, so it's time for another. Let's do that again. Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here. Hope you're well. Another month has shot by. August has disappeared. It's exactly 90. No, oh gosh, let's do that again. We won't talk about Christmas at this stage.